1 second. I am going to pull up the stream just to make sure that I'm live. Looking good. Everything's looking good. I've figured out how to use Riverside a lot better this time. Okay, now it is showing properly. The one thing that I haven't figured out is there's this feature in Riverside called audience mode or something like that, and where the audience can participate in the call. And I've been trying to figure out how to use this, but last time it didn't work. So I'm going to try again really quick. I'm just testing this. I have another web browser open, and so just bear with me for 1 second while I see if I can call into my own show. It's just loading, it's loading, nothing's happening. I can, you know what? I'm gonna share this screen with you. Let's see. I'll stop sharing and let me share the screen of myself calling into, okay. Actually, it's not letting me share. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna share this window. Oh no, there's an issue with Riverside. I wonder if it's not allowing two different apps to connect to the same camera. That's probably what it is. Oh well, Riverside has its problems. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Okay. I think it's working. So I am just going to get started. So yesterday we were reacting to some of my favorite lectures on YouTube. And the first one was by Balaji Srinivasan. It was at Y Combinator Startup School, and he's talking about Silicon Valley's ultimate exit. And so today I want to continue on reacting to that video. I want to finish that one because I had so much commentary. It ended up being over an hour for a pretty short video, and we just got about halfway through it. But first, I wanted to react to this segment of a Vitalik interview. I watched this interview because I saw a clip from it, and there was a good clip, but that's not what I'm going to be reacting to today. I think we might react to that other clip another time when we talk about Ethereum's North Star and stuff like that. But I just thought this really caught my attention, and this is something that we hear a lot. So I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this little clip from this larger interview, and then I'll give you my thoughts, and then we're gonna go and dive back into the Balaji video. So, okay. 1 sec. I'm actually sorry. Last time I did this, I wasn't sharing the audio properly, so I just want to do this one more time. I want to make sure that I am sharing the audio from this tab so that you can definitely hear what he's saying. Okay, and I'm going to put on closed captions. Okay, let's do it. Let's listen. What does Vitalik have to say here? Oh, actually, I'm just going to back up just so you hear the question.
People have kind of given up on even trying, and like that worries me, right?
Can you clarify what you mean by that? Do you mean trying to value assets based on fundamentals, or trying to add fundamental value to a token? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, what I mean by that is, like, I think we've like, there was a lot of idealistic energy in the crypto space back in 2017 to 2020, and like basically thinking about this as like building new and better institutions, and creating incredibly neutral platforms, and supporting permissionless finance, and like actually like building things that are meant to last, that people could get behind, like the kind of mentality that created Bitcoin in the first place, right? It does feel like there's less of that now, right? And it does feel like the game is like there's a part of the space where the game is like, oh, that like it doesn't matter, and let's have some fun.
Okay, so that's the setup for the part I actually want to show you. So now we're going to talk about having fun in crypto.
And like, I'm definitely, not anti-fun by any means, but like fun can't be the only thing, right? And like, to me, I think the healthy thing is always when you have fun and some other objective that are kind of playing nicely together with each other, right? Because other like if those two sides are disjoints, then like that basically creates a big problem, right? It's you want fun, you want personal financial incentive.
I mean, you're such like a
Okay, that's good enough. So, one sec, let me try and drag this window over here. Okay, great. So, okay, I completely agree with the sentiment that Vitalik is voicing here, and basically there's this idea of like, haha, it's all about the memes and DAOs, and it's like so funny, and there's Fartcoin and whatever, like degen, haha, we're retarded. There's all these people who say this stuff, and unfortunately, it's framed as that these people are fun, and Vitalik is not fun. He's talking about more, like revolutionary ideas that are talking about like security and adversarial environments and stuff like that. As he put it, building new institutions. I mean, at the end of the day, like, to me, that's actually fun. So to say that this other stuff is fun, I just think that that's retarded. Like, that is so stupid. It's just stupid, and it's not fun. And it's fun to build really cool revolutionary technology. That's fun. And this other stuff, I mean, I think there's value in it. Like, don't get me wrong. But it's not, I don't know why the people who are involved in that get to be the only ones who claim to be doing something fun. I think most normal people would think that stuff is boring and it's ridiculous. Like, there's 0% of that is interesting to me. And I think a lot of people, if they were thinking clearly about the actual cost benefit of partaking in this kind of degen culture, they would realize there's no benefit. Like, most likely by investing in crypto, you're not going to make money. You're not going to become rich. You're not like, it's not going to work out for you. If you're not doing productive work, building things that provide real value in the long run, you are not going to make money. And it's just a fact. There's no benefit for being an early adopter in crypto. You're not going to just be an early adopter and get rich from that. So I think people should, I mean, whatever, people should do whatever they want. But I just don't think that stuff's fun. I don't think that that's the point of crypto. And so I just wanted to kind of like comment on that and say that I completely support Vitalik, and I think that he should double down on the not fun side. I know he's just trying to like build a bridge with people who have a different mindset than him, but I mean, that stuff is just so stupid. So anyway, okay, let's go back and back to reacting to this video by Balaji. And I'm just, for 1 second though, I'm worried that this is not streaming smoothly. There is an issue that I'm getting a pop-up on Riverside. So I'm not sure how I can test this. It says that I need to restart my computer. That's really unfortunate. Because I've already started the stream. I think it's probably better now. So I'm going to continue talking, but if anybody is watching this at this moment, please let me know if there is any issue with the reliability of the stream. Okay. Okay, so now anyway, I'm going to go to find my playlist. Wait, no, wrong. That's yesterday's. You can go here and see yesterday's stream. Oh no.
Yo.
Okay, it's playing. No. Oh, here we go. Okay, back to this.
I can talk about my comment.
So, I think it was 9 minutes in, approximately. Okay.
In the gun sites, Khan Academy, Coursera, Udacity. And most interestingly, DC. And by DC, I'm using it as a metonym for just, government regulation in general, because it's not just DC, it includes local and state governments. Uber, Airbnb, Stripe, Square, and of course, the big one, Bitcoin, are all things that threaten DC's power. It is not necessarily clear that the US government can ban something that it wants to ban anymore. And so because of this, it's something I call the paper jam. The backlash is beginning, okay? More jobs predicted for machines, not people. The economy, not reduces price. Fine. Predicted for paper power. It is Bitcoin. Okay, Uber, Airbnb, Stripe, Square, and of course, the big one, Bitcoin.
Okay, so yeah, that's where I remember we stopped right when he started mentioning Bitcoin. So, okay, let's back up. What was he talking about in this video? Hold on 1 second. There's people outside. Okay, whatever. Okay, so anyway, what he was talking about was basically he's talking about this idea of voice and exit. And this is an idea from political science where you can, inside of a political system, you can have voice, meaning you can vote or you can debate topics, exercising free speech and talking about discussing political decisions. You can exercise voice or you can exit. And exit is leaving. So, for example, if you are in California and you don't like the tax rate in California, first of all, you can participate in politics. That's your first option. You can vote, you can debate, you can campaign, you can do all these things. That's voice. Or what you can do is if people are not agreeing with you and if people are not listening to you, you can exit. So you can go and move to Texas or Florida or Nevada and go to a state that treats you better. And one interesting thing is this dynamic means that exiting it amplifies the voice of people that have a stake in the system. So if there are a lot of business people that bring a lot of value to California and they advocate for certain policies that are business friendly, for example, that perspective is amplified by the ability that they have to go to another state. So California can't get too totalitarian because then these business people are going to exit the system and that's going to deal a massive blow to California. So their voice carries a lot more weight when you know that there's that threat of an exit. And so he basically was talking about this well-known idea within political science, and he was relating it to running a company. And so, for example, if you fork a product, that's kind of like an exit. So you don't like how Ethereum is working, but you fork Ethereum, that is like an exit from the Ethereum ecosystem. Whereas you could also make EIPs and debate and talk to people and post online, that would be voice. And there, like as a customer, another example is if you're a customer of some business, you could either give them suggestions, convince them to change their roadmap if you think they're going in the wrong direction, or you can just go to a competitor. That's exit. So he's trying to relate these two concepts of politics and businesses and code, crypto, open source projects and stuff like that. The other thing that he's doing is he's talking about that America is kind of like what the example he used is Microsoft. And the reason why he used that is because it's a very big, bureaucratic, inefficient company that is very successful. And maybe Google would be a better, this was 11 years ago, maybe Google is the better example today, but either way, I mean, Microsoft is still a great example of this, although they seem to be doing better because they have had a lot of success with AI, but still they're a huge bureaucratic company that's going to come and get disrupted by smaller startups. So he's saying, he's posing the question, is the United States equivalent to Microsoft? And then he's kind of put forth this idea that we don't really understand yet because he hasn't explained it, but there's this idea of Silicon Valley's ultimate exit. And he's putting forth, this is like the title of the talk actually, is Silicon Valley's ultimate exit. And so he hasn't explained this concept yet, but one thing that I did point out last time is that the idea of an exit, it's like a double entendre where he's talking about exit as in voice and exit, but he's also posing this as an exit for a startup, meaning a liquidity event where people make a lot of profit. So, I mean, he hasn't said any of that yet, but I'm just kind of saying it's a really nice use of words, because everyone in Y Combinator who he's talking to wants to get an exit. And so he's talking about the industry's exit, but he's also tying that into the political science idea of an exit where people are not just voting, but they're leaving. And he's built the groundwork for looking at things that way, both within a company and in politics. So anyway, let's keep watching. I want to back up just a few more seconds so we just know what he was saying leading up to this point. And yeah, on this slide, if you look at it, you'll see that he's talking about all these different tech services disrupting the legacy power centers in the pre-tech world.
Recently, Boston was next in the gun sites: Khan Academy, Coursera, Udacity. And most interestingly, DC. And by DC, I'm using it as a metonym for just government regulation in general, because it's not just DC, it includes local and state governments. Uber, Airbnb, Stripe, Square, and of course, the big one, Bitcoin, are all things that threaten DC's power. It is not necessarily clear that the US government can ban something that it wants to ban anymore. And so because of this, it's something I call the paper jam. The backlash is beginning, okay? More jobs predicted for machines, not people. Job automation is a future unemployment crisis looming. Imprisoned by innovation as, tech wealth explodes, Silicon Valley, poverty spikes. They are basically going to try to blame the economy on Silicon Valley. To say that it was the iPhone and Google that done did it, not the bankruptcies and the bombings. And, this is something which we need to identify as false. So we must respond via voice. The obvious counter-argument is that the Valley reduces prices. At the top, it's a little small, but that's a famous graph, consumption spreads faster today, that shows the absolutely exponential rise of technologies over the last century. Anything that is initially just the province of the 1%, whether it be computers or cell phones, quickly becomes the province of the 5% and the 10%. That MVP that barely works, that someone is willing to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for, allows you to fix the bugs, to get economies, to bring it to the 10% and then 20% and then the 50%, the middle class, and then 99%. That's how we got cell phones from a toy for Wall Street to something that's helping the poorest of the poor all over the world. Technology is about reducing prices. The bottom curve there is Moore's law.
Okay, so basically what he's saying is that the government, and not just the government, but the legacy power institutions like the universities, the media, Hollywood, these legacy power centers, which, as we discussed last time, were the ones that controlled the flow of information in society and have now been disrupted by this much more innovative internet technology that's many orders of magnitude better at transmitting information. These basically, as they're dying, and as they're kind of bringing down the system with them and having so many failures, what they're going to do is they're going to scapegoat tech. They're going to say, this is the fault of technology. That's why we have all these issues. And you see this a lot. I mean, you see this on both the right and the left in the US today. And remember, this was 11 years ago that he said this, so this is pretty prescient. There's a lot of people who say, oh, it's all Mark Zuckerberg's fault. He censored this thing in the election, or there is Russian disinformation on Facebook. That's why Trump won. So both sides are mad at tech. Both sides are mad at the role that they are playing. And it's really interesting to dive into that deeper. We'll definitely at another time dive into the ways that tech has been controlled by the political process. Big tech companies are highly manipulated by legacy power establishments. They've kind of got their fingers in a lot of them. Yeah, it's very interesting to go and dive into that more. And all this did mostly happen after this talk, so it's cool that he was able to predict this type of a thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a very hostile attitude that both Republicans and Democrats in the United States have towards big tech companies, and they do, when possible, blame them for a lot of problems. And I think, you know, as like, let's just kind of game theory this out, like as media declines and there's more bankruptcies and acquisitions, and basically they're just getting completely wiped out, they're going to grow increasingly more hostile to the alternative sources of information. And when people who have traditionally controlled the media are no longer able to exert that control on the flow of information, they are going to, the downstream effects of that is that they're going to lose power, and they're also going to be upset. So there's going to be an increasing backlash against these platforms. It's going to be so dangerous, all this misinformation, there's going to be terrorism, there's going to be this and that. People are going to say all these things, they're going to make these false accusations against technology, which is just, I mean, technology, I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're just sending messages faster. You know, like we're just, instead of telephones or telegrams or letters, we're just doing it faster. That's all that it is. And there's just, you know, way better ways of authenticating things, higher security, less, you know, opportunities to manipulate the truth. That's at the core what technology is providing. So to blame it for the problems, really, it's like the legacy is losing power. They're taking down the system, and they're trying to throw anything at tech that they can, and to accuse them. And so what he's advocating here is, okay, well, first what we have to do is we have to use our voice. So as these legacy power centers are attacking tech, the tech industry needs to fight back vocally. They need to explain why tech actually isn't a problem, why tech is helpful, it's not hurting society, and we should just debate this in the political system and in society to exercise our voice. But he's going to say more, so let's just continue watching.
And by contrast, the paper belt raises them. There's the tuition bubble and the mortgage bubble and the medical care bubble, and too many bubbles to name. And so the argument that, you know, the valley is a problem is incoherent, but you know, it's not going to be sufficient to respond via voice. We can make this argument, but the ultimate counter-argument is actually exit. And not necessarily physical exit, but exit in a variety of different forms. What they're basically saying is, you know, rule by DC means people...
Okay, just to like tie it all together with what I was just saying, he's saying we can make those arguments. He doesn't think that that's going to be sufficient. And in the end, we're going to have to probably have some sort of exit, or at least the threat of an exit, to make that voice heard. But let's see what he has to say. I'm going to back up just so we get, because he went into starting to say something different after I paused it. So let me back up for a second.
The ultimate counter-argument is actually exit, and not necessarily physical exit, but exit in a variety of different forms. What they're basically saying is, you know, rule by DC means people are going back to work, and the emerging meme is that rule by us is rule by Terminators, who are going to take all the jobs. Whereas we can say, and we can argue, you know, DC's rule is more like, you know, a ruined building in Detroit, and down right there is actually like a Google data center, right? And so we can go back and forth verbally, but ultimately this is about counterfactuals. They have aircraft carriers, we don't actually want to fight them. It wouldn't be smart. So we want to show what a society run by Silicon Valley would look like without actually affecting anyone who still really believes the paper belt is actually good. And that's where exit comes in.
So he's trying to find a novel way to exit that doesn't involve fighting or doing something drastic like moving physically? Is there another way that we can exit where it's peaceful, it doesn't harm anyone, but yet we're still in some sense there's still some leverage being exerted to not play by the old rules in a good way? I mean, let's just see what he says.
So what do I mean by this? What do I mean by Silicon Valley's ultimate exit? It basically means build an opt-in society, ultimately outside the US, run by technology. And this is actually where the Valley is going. This is where we're going over the next 10 years. That's where mobile is going. It's not about a location-based app. It's about making location completely irrelevant. So Larry Page, for example, wants to set aside a part of the world for unregulated.
One interesting thing is Balaji has this thing called the network state. And this is something that he's come up with after giving this talk. This talk is old. But you can really see how he was already thinking about these ideas even back then. And I guess the short version of what the network state is it's basically the idea that people have if you can kind of like map out people geographically, and when you find like these clusters of people in a geographic region, that could be known as a nation or a country. But if there's other topologies of the network, there's other ways that you could map out a group of people. You could map them out along many different axes of things, like such as ideology, like political ideology or interests or something along those lines, or just who's friends with who. And you can find clusters if you sort the data in different ways. And since everybody is basically equivalently connected these days online, it's reasonable to group people in not just geographically. And oftentimes, geographically speaking, you live next to somebody who is not like you. Whereas you might have a really good friend on the other side of the world that you talk to every day. And maybe you two are much more close than your actual physical neighbor. And so he's saying that the logical extension of where a state goes from there under this network state idea, he's saying that the logical extension of that is that the network, these networks will be spanning across geographies, and there's going to be states, and people may live next to each other, and they may be parts of all these different network states, but these network states will be like political blocks that are similar to how nations are today. And he does a lot exploring this idea. I'm not fully up to date on his latest thinking on network states, but it's a really interesting concept. And I do think if we can get to a world that's something like that, it's going to do the world a lot of good, because the fact that we're very geographically separated is very dangerous, because it means that, for example, someone might be nuclear to a state because they want to attack people of a specific other nation. That's very dangerous, because that can escalate and can kill everybody. But if we did somehow have everyone in mixed in different physical locations, there wouldn't be an opportunity to there wouldn't be the incentive to attack anyone physically in that way. And so I think we would have a lot less existential threat from the physical destruction of the world. And there'd be, in a sense, it would make most modern war go away, because, nuclear weapons or not, you're not going to be using, artillery shell. You're not going to be bombing or whatever, or invading, destroying any civilian infrastructure whatsoever, because it's going to be many different nations. It'd be like attacking every nation at once, and it wouldn't be like a concentrated group of people that you would be getting. So you'd have to conquer the whole world in order to defeat a nation, a network state, and so it really flips things on their heads. And I think talking about the future of warfare is very interesting. We should talk more about that later. But anyway, network state is a cool idea, and it shows how he was thinking about this long before his book on the network state. So anyway, let's keep watching.
Regulate experimentation. That's carefully phrased. He's not saying, take away the laws in the US. If you like your country, you can keep it. Same with Mark Anderson, right?
That's a joke because Obama said, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. When back in I don't know what, 2010 or whatever this was, when their Obamacare was a thing. I'm explaining this for any Gen Z people in the audience. Barack Obama had a lot of medical reforms in the US, and there's this thing called Obamacare, and he said, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. And everyone ended up hating on him for that, because it turned out that there were issues with dropping coverage. Certain insurance plans that people had did drop coverage for their favorite doctors. So it's a controversial and famous line. So anyway, let's keep watching.
The world is going to see an explosion of countries in the years ahead, double, triple, quadruple countries, right? Since the end of the Cold War, we've just been seeing them, burst up in all kinds of places. And some of the best.
That's interesting. Mark Andreessen said that we're going to see an explosion of countries. And it seems like Balaji is saying that has happened so far, and that trend might continue. To me, I'm not aware of that happening right now. I know there's maybe a few independence movements and new countries here and there, but it doesn't seem like an explosion at this time. I also don't know if this happening historically, except at certain events like the fall of the Soviet Union and stuff like this. There's been sudden emergences of a good number of countries. Anyway, it'd be cool to see someone pull up data on this. I would be very interested to see the rate of new country creation and the trend on that topic. But I'm not going to do that research. Somebody else should.
We'll have lessons for all the rest. Singapore's healthcare system is an example to the rest of the world. Estonia actually has, digital parking meters and all kinds of things. We can copy those things without necessarily taking the risk. Let them take the risk, and then we can copy them. It amplifies voice. So, importantly, you don't have to fight a war to start a new company, okay? You don't have to, kill the former CEO in a duel. So a very important meta concept is to create peaceful ways to exit and start new countries. So, two of the founders of, PayPal, Peter Thiel is into seasteading. Elon Musk wants to build a Mars colony. And you can scale it back too, even on Hacker News just recently within the, realm of someone on startup number 1 versus startup number 2. It's,
Okay. So what he's getting at here is that it's really cool that two people can make competing companies, but they don't have to have any inherent conflict between them, and they don't need to fight. It's peaceful. You just go and do your thing and see if it works. That's what he's getting at.
Freezing cold. There's sticks over there. It doesn't exactly look like Oahu. But the best part is this: the people who think this is weird, the people who sneer at the frontier, right, who hate technology, they won't follow you out there. Okay, that's the thing about exit, is you can take as much or a little of it as you want. You don't have to actually go and get your own island. You can do the equivalent of dual booting or telecommuting. You can opt out to whatever level that you prefer, right? Simply, going on to Reddit rather than, watching television is a way of opting out. There is this entire digital world up here, which we can jack our brains into and we can opt out. The paper belt may stop us from leaving. And that's actually what I think of as one of the most important things over the next 10 years is to use technology, especially mobile, to reduce the barriers to exit.
Okay, I'm really interested in what he's going to say here, because this was over 10 years ago. So he's saying what he hopes happens in the next 10 years. Let's see what he says and how it matches what has happened.
With it, we can build a world run by software. Here's some examples. 3D printing will turn regulation into DRM. It'll be impossible to ban physical objects, from medical devices to
Okay, I want to listen to what he's saying, but I also want to read this slide. The paper belt may stop us from leaving, but tech, especially mobile, will reduce barriers to exit. I mean, mobile has been super transformative. What year was this? Was this 2013? I mean, mobile was pretty big then, but I think it's continued to be huge. So let's see. Like, I just wonder if he was overly optimistic on anything. It's like probably 3D printing. I mean, that has not really, for most people, has not done much to change anything. So Bitcoin, yeah, I mean, honestly, Bitcoin has been quite a success. It's now at 100K. I mean, it's El Salvador. It's the official currency there. I mean, that's huge. I mean, we can argue about what cryptocurrency is the best and whatnot, but Bitcoin has succeeded. I wouldn't say it's great for avoiding capital controls, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he means when he writes capital controls there, but yeah, anyway, okay, quantified self, that hasn't been so successful these days, to be honest. Like Brian Johnson's probably the biggest example of someone who does something like that. That hasn't made much of a difference in my opinion. Telepresence, huge. Telepresence has I mean, that is so transformative. I mean, especially with the pandemic, that has been one of the most transformative things in terms of allowing people to live in different locations, in different countries, in different states, in different cities. This has fundamentally changed society. So he's spot on with that. Okay, another one, this is good, drones. Yeah, I mean, drones, drone warfare is huge in Ukraine and in conflicts in like Armenia and Azerbaijan and probably in I'm not like I'm not like a war buff or anything, but probably in Israel, Lebanon, Syria, all of these places. So I know drones are the hottest new thing right now. Well, they're not new, but they're the hottest thing right now. And there's this drone crisis actually in New Jersey. Something's going on with that. I haven't looked into that, but so drones, yeah, huge. Let's see, digital law. Meh. I mean, that's whatever. I don't know. Digital law versus code. Yeah, we're still getting there. I think there's not much progress in that. I mean, smart contract platforms are a lot better than they used to be. So maybe from that perspective, it is significant. But I wouldn't say that it encroaches on what the law does at all at this point. Robotics. Yeah, I mean, automation's been a huge force. And so, yeah, I think that's been pretty disruptive. And yeah, Bitcoin, he said that twice. But anyway, let's just hear what he had to say, because maybe I'm slightly misinterpreting this chart.
Drones to cars, you can 3D print all these things, and there are entire 3-letter regulatory agencies that are just, devoted to banning goods. With, Bitcoin, capital controls become packet filtering. It's impossible to do bail-ins if everyone's on Bitcoin, to seize money as they did in Cyprus or in Poland. With quantified self, medicine is going to become mobile. You're going to be able to measure yourself. With telepresence, your immigration policy is going to turn into your firewall. Double robotics is just the start. Any bots, these robots that you can control remotely, moving them around like a Doom video game. Soon there'll be humanoid on the other side, and they're going to get pretty good. So you can be anywhere in the world walking around with a humanoid robot on the other side, and without paying a plane ticket. Drones, warfare is going to become software. Law is going to become code. Management via robotics is going to become automation. And property rights are going to become a network effect if you know about Bitcoin smart property. So technological details, these are topics for the next MOOC. You can sign up at coursera.org/course startup. It'll be better the third time around. But that's what I think, if you want to think big, if you want to think about things that are next, build technologies as minimal or as maximal as you want for what the next society looks like. It could be something as simple as allowing people, the middle class to make tax shelters, apps that allow people to travel and relocate. It's a huge game that reduces lock-in. able to build something like this.
Cool.
Hi, everybody.
Well, that's.
I can talk about Y Combinator.
What's going on?
I guess you guys own.
Okay, there we go. Paused it. So yeah, that was the talk. So essentially, what he's saying is that we can use crypto and use technology to reduce the stranglehold that legacy power centers have on us. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was my goal today, was to finish this video. And the reason why I'm really cutting it short is because I keep getting this notification on Riverside that there's some issue. So I don't want to continue doing a long stream where it's not reliable. So anyway, see you guys maybe tomorrow or maybe Friday, and we will talk about this really important. This is just such an important talk by Andre Karpathy about software 2.0. So yeah, see you then. Please, follow me for more content. Thanks.